That's some serious music. You know what they say, if it's too loud, you're too old. Yeah, so. Welcome back, deaf. Buddy. Yeah, too deaf, that's right, man. Well, welcome to Schoal Creek.
Hey, it's
Again. Since 1999, you were here on Easter with us quite a while ago, and a lot of things have happened, man.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Time keeps marching on.
It's pretty exciting. So, a lot of people know you from your Kansas fame, Dust in the Wind, Wayward Son, Hold On, all those great songs. You kind of shared your story in the book Seeds of Change about what God had done in your life. But you came out of a culture, and we, I should say, came out of a culture of the 60s and 70s, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. But somehow Jesus got added to the mix in your life. How did that all start?
It's an interesting mix, isn't it?
Mm.
It got started because my father was a musician, and he played on the weekends. My uncle was a full-time musician, and I guess it's in our family genetics or something, because I just got wrapped up in music at a very early age. I had a great aunt who, when we would go over to her house, she would take me off into this room where she had a record player, and she would play me like the great symphonies and all the great composers, and then she would talk to me about their lives and what they were like and stuff.
Wow.
I didn't recognize that for a long time, but she really planted a seed deep in me that it made me want to aspire to that. So I was surrounded by music. Also coming from that good Swedish-American stock, I was raised a Lutheran in the Lutheran church. And when I was 14 years old, I was confirmed. And that word couldn't have been more inappropriate. I know theologically in the Lutheran church, that's it, you're in. But I knew some data. I had to memorize a lot of stuff. I knew some things about Jesus and about the Bible. I remember sitting in that church. We used to sit in the balcony a lot, and up above the altar, and there was this huge stained glass picture of Jesus out in this beautiful scene with a staff, and there were some sheep following him, and there was one black sheep. And I used to sit and just look at that picture and wonder about who Jesus really was. But then the 60s happened, and man, when I was in high school with this guy, with Dan. We went all through school together. But before that, when I was 9 years old, both my grandmothers and our family's best friend all died the same week. So here I was, this little kid, and death was like something you saw on TV, and suddenly I was just, here it was right in front of me. People I knew and loved were dead and gone, and I remember funeral after funeral, looking at them and thinking, where's Grandma? Where is she now? And it really that also planted something really deep in me, and it was a resolve, even at that young age, and even though I strayed from it in my teens, I wanted to know what life was all about. And the more time went on, the more driven I became. And in the 60s, boy, we were invaded by the counterculture was just immersed in Eastern religion. It was in our pop music. The Beatles were singing about it. Everybody had a guru and all this stuff. And I got pretty swept up in that. And parallel to that was, trying to make it as a rock and roll musician. And of course, my dad there was nothing he more wanted me not to be than a musician. He knew how hard that would be. But I was absolutely determined. And when we got the first Kansas band together, here we were in Topeka, Kansas, the center of the entertainment world. And we were serious. Unlike all the other bands we were with in school, we wanted to do it. And we literally kind of made a covenant amongst ourselves. We were going to make it or die trying. And we were that serious. And so the music became a vehicle for me to express this other desire, which was to find God or to find truth or whatever. And I was looking in all the wrong places. Yeah. But that's how I expressed myself, was in the music. I drug these guys along with me.
And I mean, for you, it happened. For millions of others or thousands of others,
it did. Happened.
It happened.
Even today, when I dwell on that, the chances of what happened to us are so impossibly remote. It's like winning the lottery. It really was. Other musicians come to me and, how can we do what you did? Well, I don't know. We were in the right place at the right time, and somebody heard us, and off we went. And the next thing I knew, my dream had come true. And that's an interesting thing to think about. You know, everybody has some kind of a dream. Everybody has a pie in the sky aspiration you want to get to, a success, you know, the American dream, whatever you want to call it. But what nobody really ever thinks about is what happens to you when you get there. When you actually achieve success and live out your dream, what that does to you as a person. Suddenly, I had nowhere to go. I didn't know who I was anymore. It's like, what? Now we're here. Now what's my goal? And so it drove me ever deeper into trying to find God. And with the other guys in the band, it drove everybody somewhere. Success nearly destroyed us. It drove some to drugs, and some guys began to worship the success itself. And with me, like I say, it drove me deeper. I got so to the point where I was carrying around a suitcase on the road. One had my clothes in it, and one was full of books. The roadies called it the library. They hated that thing. It weighed about 180 pounds worth of spiritual books, you know. And I was just, they called me the charter member of the Religion of the Month Club. You know, I just went from one thing to another, which in itself was interesting because I wasn't finding, there was some missing piece that didn't fit always. And I went through all the major religions of the world and most of the minor ones that I could find. I was scraping the bottom of the barrel. And finally, I got involved in a belief system, or I don't know if I'd call it a religion. I guess it's a religion. It was called Urantia. It was based on the Urantia book. It's this big, thick book that explains the history of the universe and God. And interestingly, the central figure in the Urantia book is Jesus. And I didn't know it at the time. I should have known better, but it wasn't the Jesus of the Bible.
Yeah.
It was a different gospel, a different Jesus. But I was really excited because all during this exploring in religions, I never knew what to do with Jesus, who I had learned about when I was growing up, because he said some things. He said, I am the way, not a way. I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father but through me. Also says there's no other name under heaven by which men can be saved.
Yeah.
That used to infuriate me. It's like, well, wait a minute. That's not inclusive. Political correctness hadn't happened yet, but I was thinking that way. And but when I got to the Urantia book, I said, okay, now I can figure out how to fit Jesus in here. Because when I was a Hindu and everything, they always said, Jesus was a great teacher, but nobody ever followed his teachings. I never could understand that. So here I was, a Urantian, and I hadn't met any others. As far as I knew, I was the only one. And I was really anxious to lead someone to Urantia, so there'd be two of us, And we were out on the road on a tour, and we had a sold-out show. And well, before that, we had started touring with this band called Louisiana's LaRue. And their guitar player was a guy I really hit it off with. He was the writer for their band. I was the writer. We both had long blonde hair, and I know that takes great faith to believe, but
There's pictures to prove it.
yeah,
so.
yeah. And we just really hit it off. And the reason, above and beyond that stuff, I found out he was a deeply spiritual person. And then I found out he was a Christian, which was a huge disappointment. I mean, I was like let down. I thought it was going to be something exotic that I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
And he undertook to lead me to Jesus Christ. And I got to tell you, I did not, as much as I wanted to find truth, I didn't want to be a Christian. Mm-hmm. What I thought a Christian was, what I thought they looked like, what I thought they did, everything, it wasn't what I wanted to be. But I got to tell you about their band. There were two Christians in their band, none in mine. And they traveled by bus, and we traveled by a chartered jet. And in their bus, their band had literally built a partition. There was a wall in the back of the bus with a little compartment, and that was the Christian compartment. And in the front of the bus was everybody else, and the cocaine and the girls and the liquor and the partying and all that stuff. And they would travel around the country, and the two guys in the back were praying for the guys in the front. Mm-hmm. And but I wanted to be with Jeff because he was the only guy I'd come across in my entire career. I had never met any other Christians. They had never approached me. And I wanted to be with him. So I gave up our seat on our private jet and went to the back of the bus. And we would ride all night long. I mean, I didn't even care about touring anymore. I was detached from it at this point. And I sat there with Jeff with my Urantia book, and he sat there with his Bible, and we would debate back and forth. And I'm a pretty good arguer. I usually win arguments, but in this case, and I think I maybe even argued better than he did, but his words, my words were head words. His words were like sticking an ice pick in my heart. I knew, deep down, I knew what he was telling me. It just cut me to the heart. And I finally had all this I could take, and I didn't ride with him anymore. But he gave me a Bible, and he gave me a little book by Hal Lindsey called The Liberation of Planet Earth. So I put those into the library, and carried them around for a while, and it ate and ate and ate at me. I thought, well, I don't want to read the Bible, and maybe I'll read that little Hal Lindsey book. And we were in Indianapolis, Indiana, July 25th, 1979. After the show, I was in my hotel room. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I was laying there reading this little Hal Lindsey book, and Hal Lindsey had simplified the gospel in this book. It was just a real direct presentation of what the gospel message of the New Testament is, who Jesus is, what he did, why I need him, why he's the truth. He had little diagrams and everything. And somewhere in this process of reading, I just put the book down, and like I told you before, the best way I can describe what I did was surrender. I gave up. I gave up Kerry Livgren. I gave up the rock star. I gave up my life. I gave up everything I wanted, everything I'd ever wanted to be, because I was so weary of looking for God that it was like, will the real God please stand up? I was desperate, and I got down on my knees. I didn't really know how to pray to him, but I just said, Jesus, if you're the truth, if you're the Lord, then I give up. I want you right now. I want to be yours, and I want to serve you. And wow, that's where vocabulary falls terribly short. There's no way to describe what happened except that who I was no more, and someone came into me that wasn't there before. And wow, that was what, 27 years ago? I wake up every morning of my life, open my eyes, and oh my God, I'm a Christian. How he's still here. You know, it's still true.
Yeah.
And when you find the truth, there's no going anywhere else.
You know, a lot of people, don't ask the question, is it true, so much as is it working for you? And I wonder, in those 27 years, how does this Christianity thing work in your life? I mean, you're a rock star, I'm only seeing the world, all that kind of stuff, but you got the same life as the rest of us do.
Well, if I try to work, I fall on my face. If I step out of the way and let the Lord direct my steps, as we're all supposed to do, then that doesn't mean everything goes smoothly. In fact, what they don't tell you on TV and stuff, when you become a Christian, you've immediately enlisted in an army that's in the middle of a raging universal war, and you're in the trenches. And so it's a struggle. That is the truth. But I'll tell you what, the benefits by far, like that song we do, Morning's Gate, the polar opposite of that is dust in the wind. And the message of dust in the wind is not false. It's true. It's absolutely true. But that song offers no hope. It offers no solution. It simply presents, we come out of this dirt and we go back to it. And everything that was our life ends up in the casket. And when I found Jesus Christ and realized that when he rose from the dead, which is a fantastic thing to believe. I mean, I know it is. And you take that step, you decide you're going to believe it. When you realize that he rose from the dead, what does that mean? That means he's alive right now as we're sitting here. And if he's alive, then you can have a relationship with him. And Christianity is, all those religions I was in, Christianity is not a religion. It's a relationship with a living being. And that's why it's completely set apart from everything else.
Yeah.
And how does my life work? It's hard. You struggle mostly against myself. My biggest enemy is me. And there's still a body of flesh here that was. Somebody once gave me an analogy. I thought it was fantastic. They said, if there was a factory, and that factory, all it produced was poison. They produced poison there. Suddenly the factory comes over under new ownership. And they're going to produce good things, vitamins, I don't know, take your pick, whatever you want to pick. That factory has to be transformed to be able to do the good things when it was set up to do the bad things. And that's, we're all a work in progress. 27 years, it doesn't end at 27 years. It's not going to end sometime in my life until I step into the presence of God. And that's how it works. I've got maybe some struggles that are different from other people. Being in the music business that's a struggle even if you never got saved. But when you do, it becomes a different kind of struggle, because this became a struggle with Kansas. When I found Christ, how am I supposed to be silent? How am I supposed to not talk about that as a writer? I couldn't do that. I couldn't, he says, if you confess me before men, I'll confess you before my Father. But if you deny me, and I'm not saying, the Kansas had to go join a Christian record label or whatever, but it became an internal struggle. In some ways, it was very difficult. It was very difficult for me. It was even more difficult for the other guys to suddenly be with me. But a year after I got saved, our bass player Dave came to Christ. Totally different testimony. He wasn't looking for God. He was about this far from being dead. I mean, his drug problem was so severe at that point that I actually feared for his life. He ended up on that same bus. We were back touring again with the same band. He was in the front partying. We were in the back praying for Dave because we thought we were going to find him dead in his hotel room. And suddenly there was a knock on that door, and we opened the door, and there's Dave standing there with the most terrified look on his face I've ever seen. He didn't know what was happening to him. And he came into that room and he said, I think I'm supposed to be back here.
Wow.
And it wasn't like we had to pray the sinner's prayer. God had already grabbed this guy. Exactly the same thing as Paul's walking down the road, right? Where's he going? To kill Christians. He wasn't trying to find Jesus. He's going to kill Christians. God said, nope, you're mine. That's exactly what happened to Dave. If you try to formularize it too much, and gosh, I've never seen a guy so transformed. He's a full-time pastor now. if that doesn't prove it, then I don't know what would. But.
Well, this relationship's affected your music, significantly, like the song you guys are about to do.
Yeah, it. Roy, I don't know if I would say it affected my music as much as it affected my lyrics. Musically, I don't know that I've changed really what I do too much. But lyrically, and the things that happen, like this song that we're about to do, I was sound asleep. Wasn't even thinking about music. And in a dream, and I know that I sound like a kook, but in a dream, the song was playing from beginning to end with lyrics. It was like listening to your stereo. And I woke up, and it's still playing in my head. Thought, what is going on? And I wandered into the studio in my bathrobe and turned on the machines and put this thing down and wrote down the lyrics, and then went back and went to bed. And I came back out in the morning and thought, did I dream that whole thing or what? And there it was. And so this song existed before I ever got to it. And I don't know really what that means, except that it's a gift.
So if Dust in the Wind's truth, it kind of gives us no hope. At Morning's Gate.
Yeah, this song, At Morning's Gate, even if you never got past the title, if you're standing at Morning's, what does that mean? You're on the brink of entering into something completely new.
Wow.
A new day. And there's some lines in that song, that give me goosebumps.
Yeah.
The bitter taste of the ground in which we lay, for now all have been remade. I didn't write that.
Yeah. That's cool stuff. Well, we hope that Proto-Kaw achieves worldwide acclaim. You guys are great musicians, and just what's in those songs, the message in those songs is just incredibly powerful. So thank you for being available to God to get those written. Let me pray, and we'll bring the band back out. Would you join me? Father, thank you for Kerry's ability to just to hear melodies and lyric. Thank you for these men that play with him, for the incredible skill that they have to do the kind of music they do that does something to us in a way that we can't even understand or explain. We thank you for that message that grabbed a hold of Kerry's life 27 years ago. A bizarre message of God leaving heaven, coming down and becoming a man, living a perfect life amongst us, leaving behind a story of a life, of a death, and a resurrection that would offer hope to humankind in this world and the world to come. Father, it is a bizarre thing. It's science fiction at its greatest, but yet history whispers its truth. It's not a myth, but it states itself as a fact. And it offers up to us a question of what we're going to do with it. Thank you for the opportunity to have that whispered in our ears. And we give you the permission to bug us with that question until we answer it. Father, thank you for your Son, Jesus. Thank you for his sinless life, for his sacrificial death, and for his miraculous resurrection that gives us hope in this world and the world to come. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Let's play Morning's Gate.
Okay.
Though a rich man's heir or a pauper's son, underneath the cross we shall all be one. When the day shall wane and the seasons growing late, we'll stand at the potter's wheel, in the sculptor's hand, we are being shaped for a better land. And the winter's chill is the summer's warming sun, and life has just begun. Through a veil of tears, we have run the course, thirsting for the well of the purest source. Not the bitter taste of the ground in which we're laid, for Morning's Gate. Thank you.